Okay.
You had to request, according to paragraph C, that your license revocation be lifted. Did you
Yes,
do that?
I did.
And when was that?
That was in anticipation of the time period, ending the period of probation.
So it would have been in the fall of '07?
That's right.
And you appeared before the board again and asked that your probation be terminated pursuant to paragraph E?
Yes, sir.
And that was granted last
It was.
at the end of '07. Did you pay the civil penalty of $3,000?
I did that immediately.
Paragraph F, did you pay the $500 pursuant to paragraph G?
Everything that
6.
they asked me to pay, I paid immediately.
All right. What did you do with the Tennessee Medical Foundation?
The Tennessee Medical Foundation is the organization that assists physicians with addictions and behavioral problems.
So what did you do with them?
They have an ongoing program that consists of monitoring physicians in recovery. One of the first things that happened to me after this event was well publicized in the Nashville area. I received a note over my fax machine that had a phone number and asked me to call if I wanted to help experience recovery and hope. And I called that number, and it was another physician who had been through a similar personal crisis in his life, and asked me to contact Dr. David Dodd, who was then the director of the Tennessee Medical Foundation. I did. I went to his house. He was able to identify my very aberrant behaviors as what he called a paraphilia, and recommended that I go to the Sante Center for Healing outside Dallas. And within 3 or 4 days, I was there.
How long were you there?
I was there for a period of 3 full months over about a 5-month period. They were gracious enough to allow me to come home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and for New Year's to maintain some semblance of normality with respect to our son. And because I was an emergency physician away from home a lot, particularly in the evenings, the fact that I was gone for long periods of time was not terribly unique, and Alex, thank God, has survived this quite
All right, so
well.
my question was, and I moved to strike what's not responsive, what you did with the TMF. You got with
Yes.
Dr. Dodd and you went to rehab outside of Dallas.
I did everything they told me to do.
And that's what it was.
Yes.
And that's what I'm asking you, what you did with them.
Exactly. And since I have been home, there is a group of physicians in recovery for sexual addiction and sexual related misbehaviors, and we meet on a weekly basis. And when I'm not out of town, when I'm not working, every week I'm there. And we have an annual caduceus meeting where all of the physicians in the recovery program, irrespective of whether their issues are drug or alcohol or gambling or sex or overeating, we come together and hear speakers on the topic in general of addiction, because it all boils down to the same disease. The drug of choice, so to speak, is just a technicality, but the disease is addiction.
To adrenaline.
That was my case. Adrenaline, lust.
All right. You were required to report at least quarterly
My next meeting is next week.
to the TMF?
Yes.
And you still do that?
I still do that, although I am under no contract with them, no requirement to do so. I'm under no further requirement to go to any of the meetings, but I go to public meetings, I go to physician meetings. I speak annually to the psychiatry residents at Vanderbilt. I speak to community meetings. My downfall was very public.
Right.
I was a very high-profile physician in Nashville.
Right. We heard about it even here.
I bet you did. There was my 30th high school reunion was held after this in 2004, and one of my high school classmates who lives in Montana heard about it.
Yeah.
Because I was a high-profile person, and because this was widely known, I've been very public in my recovery.
Is this why you haven't done essentially any medical malpractice consulting? Since '01 or '02 when you
I'm
were arrested?
sure that has a tremendous
Let me
amount to do
finish
with it.
my question. When you were arrested and convicted?
I do not know, because all I do is answer the telephone, but I'm sure that has a tremendous amount to do with it.
All right.
But in the one trial that I testified in since then, there was never any allegation of any inappropriate behavior by me ever involving my practice or involving any patient or with any person I ever worked with at any level. It was deemed that it had nothing to do with my practice and couldn't have been, and was not allowed to be brought up in the court.
What court? What case was that? The one where you were defendant?
Oh, no. The one where I was a defendant was in 1987. I haven't been sued since. This was one in which I served as an expert witness in Polk County.
You tell me that was 2002.
I don't know the exact date of the court trial, but it was after this event. It was after I got back from recovery.
Okay. Now, paragraph J says, should you engage in clinical practice, you have to have present at all times of the treatment of any female person, someone else to monitor the examination. Does that still apply?
That applied even before this went into effect, because I've never examined female patients, specifically breast examinations or pelvic examinations, in the absence of a female escort.
That may be, but since you pleaded guilty and entered
Yes.
this agreement, have you examined any female without someone else being present?
Never.
Did you have a lawyer in the criminal matter?
I did.
Ed Yarborough?
Yes, sir.
And your bond was set at how much total?
I don't recall.
And one of the conditions was that you stay away from the victim, and that was the wife, wasn't it?
That was, yes, that's correct.
Doesn't say victims, plural. It
I've
says
had no
victim.
contact with the family at all since
That's not
then.
what I'm asking you. I'm asking you about the bond condition. Required you to stay away from the victim, and that was the wife. Isn't that correct?
If that's what that says.
All right.
I
Well,
have
you
no
have a
reason to
copy in
dispute
front
it.
of you if you want to, if you doubt me. Who is right? You pleaded guilty to invasion of privacy, peeping Tom, correct?
Essentially. I don't know that it was worded quite that way, but yes.
If that's what the official documents say that we marked as an exhibit, you wouldn't dispute that, would you? How many, is that a no?
Correct.
How many counts of peeping Tom did you plead guilty to?
You know, I couldn't really tell you.
Did you plead guilty to invasion of privacy?
If it says I did, I did.
Okay. Well, what it says is that you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of invasion of privacy and being a peeping Tom, and that you also pleaded guilty to unlawful photography. That the other charges against you, which included aggravated criminal trespass and sexual exploitation of a minor, were dismissed as part of a plea bargain. Does that sound correct?
I don't know about the latter.
That's what